Hi, I'm Eric.
And I'm Laura. We're a couple who stepped away from the default version of success after questioning the traditional path and realizing the life we were building looked right on paper but didn't feel the way we thought it would.
Join us for honest conversations, grounded perspective, real life experiences, and a refreshing take on what it means to live life on your own terms.
A lot of people spend more time trying to quiet certain thoughts than they do actually listening to them. Not because they don't know those thoughts are there, because they most likely do. They tend to show up in small moments. Maybe on a Sunday evening when you're thinking about the week ahead. Maybe while you're driving home from work. Maybe when you finally have a few minutes of quiet and your mind isn't occupied by the next task, meeting, or responsibility. And for a second, a question pops into your head. Maybe it's, is this actually working for me? Or do I really want to keep doing this? Or maybe it's something as simple as, if nothing changed, would I actually be okay with that? What's interesting is that most people don't necessarily answer those questions. They notice them and then they move on. They find something else to focus on. They get busy again. They tell themselves they'll think about it later. And a lot of us do that more often than we realize.
I think that's because people assume the problem is that they need more answers. But I'm not sure that's actually what's going on. When I look at a lot of the conversations we've had with people over the years, it seems like they already know more than they give themselves credit for. They know they're exhausted. They know they're constantly looking forward to time off. They know something feels off. They know there are parts of their life they've stopped questioning simply because they've become normal. The challenge isn't always finding the answer. Sometimes it's being willing to stay with the question long enough to see what it's trying to tell you.
And I think that's what makes this topic so interesting. Because if those thoughts keep showing up, there's probably a reason. Most people don't spend a lot of time wondering whether they're on the right path when everything feels aligned. The questions that keep resurfacing are usually pointing towards something. The question is whether we're willing to pay attention to them, which makes me wonder, what are the questions people tend to avoid asking themselves in the first place?
Where do I begin?
Right?
Yeah.
Feels like a loaded question.
Right. I mean, the first one that comes up for me is, and literally for me, is why am I always looking forward to time off?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think a lot of people can probably relate to that. I know I certainly have in different seasons of life.
And for me, it's because the time off that I have is my time. It's my schedule. I get to do, go, see, be, whatever it is, how I want to do it. I'm not tied to someone else's schedule.
And you're not having somebody else dictate what you're doing with your time.
Exactly. And that's, like you said, I think a lot of people are in the same boat, but not making that same conclusion.
Right.
Yeah.
Another question that comes to mind for me is, why does work seem to take up so much of my life?
I woke up this morning, so my alarm went off at 6 a.m.
Boy.
I actually woke up
This is the
well
first time
before.
I'm hearing this, so this is exciting.
Yeah. So I woke up well before 6 a.m. on my own. And at first, my first thought was, why am I awake? And then my second thought was something work related. It was like, I need to look at this PDF that someone sent over to me. And as soon as I thought that, I'm like, really? It's not even, my alarm hasn't even gone off yet. Like, what the hell? Why am I thinking of this so early?
That's so interesting because I think my initial thought with that question was like work taking up so much of my time in my life.
Yeah.
Whereas this is very much like, why is work invading my thoughts before I've even put my feet on the ground?
Exactly. Yeah. So that was
Not a good way to start your
not
day, especially
no.
at the early hour.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was an interesting way to start the morning.
Is that a question that often shows up for you? Because you do, I mean, it sounds like this wasn't the first time you've had that thought first thing.
There I used to I used to not be good about separating work from everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And for those people who work fully remote, where your work is maybe in your home office or on the dining room table or kitchen table or whatever it is, so there's no separation between home life and work life. And in an RV, it's even
More
tighter
obvious.
and more obvious than
Yeah.
that. So I used to be almost on all the time. Like at any given time during the day, I would be thinking about something work related. I have since changed that, and the thoughts sneak in every now and then, especially in the morning, and then sometimes like late at night, or like when I'm in bed trying to fall asleep, I'll think, oh, I forgot to do this, or I need to do this tomorrow, or I need to email this person, or whatever. And then as soon as that thought comes into my head, I'm like, why am I thinking of this? And then I shut it down, and I move on from it. So I've made the conscious effort to limit those things,
Mm-hmm.
and to minimize those intrusive thoughts that come in. But sometimes they do rear their ugly heads.
I appreciate that because those thoughts also almost always come out of your mouth. And while I don't mind hearing about your work, I don't want to hear about it all the time.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
another question that comes to mind as one that I can definitely see continually showing up is, if nothing changed, would I actually be happy 5 years from now? I'm not sure if I've ever actually thought that question specifically. 5 years feels like a long time frame. We were actually just having this conversation yesterday with a friend of ours, and I was just kind of mentioning how I know for you, you've always hated that question,
Mm-hmm.
often found in like an interview setting of, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Interview
Like,
or job review, like a performance review.
oh, okay.
Yeah. Like I just had one for work. What's your long-term goal? Like to one, to do what I'm doing, and two, retire. Like I
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, I get that. Well, and it's interesting. I know I've mentioned this to you before when it comes to, kind of casting that long term vision for your life.
Mm-hmm.
5 years is a fine starting point, but I think it's a really far projection, and most people can't actually see that far. Like, it seems so far away, almost
Mm-hmm.
out of reach.
Yeah.
So it's hard to come up with those tangible things, whereas I suggest, like, completely dialing it back. Where do you see yourself 6 months from now? A lot can change in 6 months.
Right.
A year from now, 2 years from now. Like, make it a timeline that, like, obviously you want to kind of stretch yourself, but, like, make it a timeline that you can actually see. Because 5 years it's
It's
ways
too
off.
it's too long.
Absolutely.
So, how about this question? Am I tired because life is busy, or because something isn't working?
Oh, gosh. I wish that this question was something that had come up for me many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like I didn't have that level of awareness that I have now when it comes to seeing things in my life and recognizing them for what they are, or at least recognizing them as something that needs to be questioned. So for me, I feel like I just accepted the default that I think a lot of people accept of, well, I'm just tired and life's just busy and that's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
Right.
And like leaving it at that.
So that kind of goes into the next question is, did I choose this life or did I just end up here?
Gosh. Feels like a stab in the heart to hear that.
We actually did kind of touch on this in a previous episode.
Okay.
Too. I don't know the episode.
Oh, yeah.
But so did you inherit your beliefs and values or did you choose them?
Mm-hmm.
And this is very similar to that. Is did I choose this life? So did I make these decisions to consciously get here, or did I just end up here because that's what's expected?
Yeah. It's definitely a question to ponder.
Right?
I think for some people, like obviously like having that realization and recognizing like, oh, wow, like not only is this question coming up for me, but this question has come up for me multiple times. And I think like a lot of us ask like, well, why does this keep resurfacing? I know for me, when the same question, it's not always a question, but the same idea continually keeps coming back and coming up and I can't get rid of it. Like I question that. I recognize that as, this is probably something I should actually give some thought to and pay attention to. Whether it's something that I'm going to actually like run with or completely rule out is a different story. But it's when we have those recurring thoughts and questions, they recur because like it's like, hey, I'm over here, pay attention.
Ah, yes.
Like I have found that they really don't just disappear because you ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
They, again, you recognize them, you sit with them, and then you kind of make a decision from there. Is this something that I'm going to actually like do? Or is it just, it was a thought and it was a good thought, but it's not for me right now?
Interesting.
Yeah. And I think a question here is like, what are the questions people keep pushing away because they don't like where they might lead? I mean, from a 20,000 foot view, first thing that comes to mind for me is a career change.
My first thought was basically anything that makes them feel uncomfortable.
Well, that could be, I mean, I guess 20,000 foot view, that could be anything.
Yeah, so...
as broad as it gets.
Yeah, so I mean, like, career change, relationship change.
Moving from where you live.
Change.
Yeah, location change, thank you.
So those can be very uncomfortable things to sit with and go through and just work through because they're so unknown.
Right. Well, and I think in that same regard, like, yes, we as humans avoid discomfort at most costs.
Yes, right.
But I don't think the uncomfortable part is always the question itself. It's actually what happens if you're honest about the answer. I think when you're honest, like the level of honesty that is required in some instances, and I don't mean outward honesty, like honesty with another person. I mean like getting honest with yourself. That's uncomfortable as shit.
Right.
Like, I have been there so many times, and it doesn't matter how much experience you have with those uncomfortable things, that moment where you have to just be so brutally honest with yourself, like, it does not get easier. You can think about it like this, because if you're super honest that maybe you don't like how you're spending most of your time, or you're constantly exhausted, maybe you've outgrown a goal you used to care so much about, or the future that you're building and that you've been building for a while no longer excites you. Like, those are hard truths.
They are, and people don't really like to admit that to themselves. Like, if you've been working so hard on the goal, your 5-year plan, for example, and you're 3 years into that and you're like, well, damn, this doesn't really like jive anymore,
Mm-hmm.
but you put so much time and effort into it. I think the majority of people don't like to admit that to themselves, that what they set their goal on, they don't want it, basically because they've put so much time and effort and energy and money into it, potentially, to admit to themselves that that's not what they want anymore is super difficult to admit.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I've been there myself. But at the same time, like when you're in that situation where you maybe are on the verge of admitting that it no longer serves you, it no longer aligns with where you want to go, it's as it's as equally as hard to keep telling yourself that everything is fine. Like once you have that realization, regardless of the level of how honest you are with yourself, it's hard to unknow something.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I know
Yes, it
for
is.
me, like I can't just be like, well, everything's fine. I'm great. I can push forward. Like no, the second that that realization has ever come up for me, it's like, okay, I can stay with this. I can stick this out for a season, but I'm automatically like in planning mode for how I'm going to pivot out of it.
Mm.
And I think that that's why a lot of people keep these kind of thoughts at arm's length from themselves. Not because they don't know that they're there, but I think it's because once you acknowledge something, like I said, it's just so hard to unsee it.
Yeah, it's like that truth. There's, let's say, like a, for example, a car accident. It's so hard to not sit and stare.
Mm-hmm.
And I equate that same thing to this. Like, it's so hard to, once you have that realization, to go back and think of, like, again, that goal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
once you have that realization that the goal is no longer aligned for you, it's so hard to go back and say, well, I'm still going to finish that goal because I've spent so much time and energy and money into this, even though it, it doesn't do anything for you.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's exactly how I felt with my first business.
Okay.
And, over time, I still believed wholeheartedly in what I was doing and how I was serving people. But I realized that, like, my passion for that, while it was still something that I believed in, it's like the fire in the passion had kind of dimmed.
Okay.
And I knew that the place I was in, I could not like show up for others and serve others the way that I wanted to, the way that they deserved, the way that I deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that honestly took years for me to admit to myself. And while I was in that season of figuring that out, I think I definitely shied away from seeing the truth and being honest with myself about what that actually was for me. I think I just kind of like brought in these thoughts of, well, maybe the way that I'm doing it isn't working, or maybe I need to change something up. And sometimes I think that that is the case. The way that we like start something doesn't necessarily like mean the way that we finish it. Like
Mm-hmm.
we often pivot, we reassess, we rework, that kind of thing. But I think that that only gets you so far. And if you're constantly reworking something, changing direction, trying to create that next thing, still on that same path, like sooner or later you do have to have that, I always say like the come to Jesus talk with yourself. Because like, there's that whole quote on insanity, and that's always what comes to mind for me. But I will say, as somebody who does have that very specific firsthand experience, it's not always easy to recognize that in the moment.
No, it's not. I think it is that reflection that you do need to sit with, and again there's that hindsight thing, which
Mm-hmm.
always hate, but
You hate it, and yet you always bring it
I
up.
know, I
Every
know.
time I'm like, I know that word's coming. I'm cringing a little.
Yep, I know. But I mean, it's true. You would need to, or it would be beneficial to sit with something to gather your thoughts and make sure that whatever change it is that you're looking to do, it does fully align with where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that all comes back to like the thought that sometimes knowing isn't the hard part, but sometimes the hard part is deciding what to do with what you know.
Ain't that some shit?
Yes, it is.
So, do you think people avoid these questions because they don't know the answer? Or is it because they already have a pretty good idea what the answer might be?
Honestly, I feel like I could go either way on this. I think like sometimes people avoid these questions because they truly don't know the answer. They may be in a season of trying to figure that out, or they may be in a season where they're just so closed off to change and what that could mean for them
Mm-hmm.
that they almost like block their ability to even have those realizations. But at the same time, I do believe that people definitely avoid these questions because they already have a pretty good idea what the answer might be and what that answer would mean for them. And that's where the discomfort comes in.
Okay.
But again, like I mean maybe it's just me, but like I feel like once I know something or once I see something, like there's no undoing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is like permanently like etched in my brain. So it's not something that I can ignore.
Right. I think people like to put the blinders on
Mm-hmm.
and um and really
Pretend.
just and yeah, exactly, pretend that those questions don't exist,
Okay.
because the answers are uncomfortable, and our brains like to keep us comfortable.
Mm-hmm. They like to keep us safe.
Exactly. And
Absolutely.
those answers are kind of, I don't want to say unknown, but they're not familiar
Mm-hmm.
with your current situation. And that's why I say the blinders get put up, so that way you just, even if you do know what's out there, it's like, this is comfortable. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to keep on this same path, same trajectory. So,
I would also argue, though, that awareness doesn't automatically require action. Like, I don't feel that everything, that has come up for me over the years as like an idea or a realization or, like the starting phase of making a change. Like, I don't believe that everything that comes up for us requires action.
mm-hmm.
I think if that was the case, we'd probably all be changing direction constantly.
That's
Like,
very true. Yeah.
well, yes, I do believe in like changing direction when it serves you and when it aligns with you. You probably shouldn't change direction every single day. But I would say that awareness definitely changes your relationship to what you're experiencing.
Okay.
Because again, pre-awareness, you probably didn't have this thought, wasn't even like an inkling of a thing for you.
Mm-hmm.
Post-awareness, you now have this thought, and that is going to like directly affect how you move forward, even if it's something that you don't take action on.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like the seed
The
gets
seed has been planted. Yeah.
and unless there's an absolute drought, the seed is going to grow
Mm-hmm.
in some way, shape, or form.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
I like that analogy, the seed getting planted.
Thanks. I just thought of that
That's
on,
a
on the
really
fly.
that's a really good one. Yeah, I really like that. It's a good visual for my brain,
Uh-huh.
because that's just how my brain operates. But damn, I like that.
I'm not even a gardener. Proud of myself for that one.
So in that case, when you have that seed planted in your head, and you actually recognize that that's what's happening.
At least that it's something.
Yeah. So when you have this little seed that gets planted and you let it grow,
Mm-hmm.
is that when you would start noticing these patterns?
Absolutely.
Okay. And because of that, I can speak for myself. Start noticing these patterns of doing X, Y, and Z. And then the things that serve me, I become more intentional to keep those things going.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And because of that, there's a higher level of understanding of myself. And then there's the really it's stop confusing my avoidance with the peace that comes with these realizations.
Okay. I feel like there's a story here that I'm going to prompt you to share.
So I think I was a big proponent of like every morning just getting up and going straight to work.
You think, or you were? Those are different.
I was definitely the person who would just get up in the morning and go straight to work, whether it's working in an office or working from home. Like even when I worked from home in Colorado, 6 a.m. or whenever I woke up, I would go straight downstairs to the office. I would turn my laptop on, sit in the chair, and start going. And then I'd get up, make myself a cup of coffee. But the first thing would be like
Open the laptop.
open the laptop
Mm-hmm.
and just hop right to it. And I have come to realize that that doesn't do a damn thing for me. What does help me is when I wake up in the morning and I do something for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So in this case, I do a little personal development reading. I use our foam roller to loosen myself up for the day. I make sure I drink enough water before I drink any sort of caffeine or coffee or tea, whatever it is. I do a little bit of journaling, and that just sets the tone for my day. Whereas, again, before, I would just jump straight to work. I wouldn't really think anything of it. And that's what I mean is, like, I'm more aware of the things that actually set me up, in this case, for my day to be more really, like,
Productive,
or, like, not giving the best hours of myself to someone else, but pouring into myself first.
Mm-hmm. So would you say that kind of the before version of Eric was avoiding those things, or you just hadn't had the realization or the lovely voice of your wife in your ear? Because let's get real.
Yes, right.
I am a big proponent in pouring into yourself before you pour into others.
Right. There, in some cases, at the very beginning, I wasn't really aware of it. So it's not that I just didn't know, one way or the other. And then I started doing it every now and then, and I recognized how I felt in the days that I did postpone myself going to quote unquote work and instead pouring into myself. And then obviously the voice of reason coming from you.
Well, naturally. What a lucky man you are.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
Well, it is interesting, like, that you say that, because I think it's important to know that the goal isn't to immediately change your life. Like, I know I can say from what I witnessed
Mm-hmm.
in your change, even if I wasn't always awake at that early hour with you, like, you didn't just change those habits overnight.
Right. Yeah, it was the course of several, maybe a couple months of, like, slowly incorporating these things instead of just jumping headfirst into, one morning, like on a Monday, I go straight to work, and on Tuesday I do all of these things in such a drastic change from one day to the next. No, it took me a little bit of time to incorporate these things over time. It's not such a, like you said, a drastic change, 180-degree turn from going in one direction to the other. So, but no, I mean, I'm a big fan of it. I think now that I've recognized that there is that change, um, the seed obviously has been planted, and I am letting that sucker grow. So it's interesting, and then I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, that's amazing. So here's another question for you, because I feel like this is very applicable to your experience in this situation. Would you say that there's a difference between knowing something and being willing to acknowledge it? So you obviously knew that doing something for yourself, creating healthy habits, serving habits at the start of your day would benefit you.
Yeah.
I don't think you could argue that it would be a
Oh, yeah.
non-benefit.
Right, exactly.
So you knew that based on witnessing me doing that, hearing me talk about doing that. But like, would you say that there's a difference between knowing something and then actually be willing to like acknowledge it and do it?
Absolutely. Because like, someone who smokes cigarettes can know that smoking cigarettes is bad, but once you stop and actually acknowledge that smoking cigarettes is bad for you,
like, you're more likely to, I would assume you're more likely to take action once you actually acknowledge it.
Right.
Versus just knowing
exactly
the data.
Yes, exactly. Like, I have a lot of data in my head, but it's kind of really useless until it is put into practice.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's one of those things where, I mean, I can't really think of a single instance in life where I haven't been in a situation and been able to have like a reframe of what I'm experiencing. So whether it's like a mindset shift or just a way of looking at a situation in a positive light versus a negative light. I've always kind of deemed myself as like the silver lining gal, because I truly can see the silver lining in any situation.
Yes, you can.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But, like maybe the goal isn't necessarily to have all of the answers, but to simply stop cutting the conversation short. So when I say that, what I mean is, like, you have that thought, and maybe it pops up once, maybe it pops up 3 times, maybe it pops up 10 times before you actually acknowledge that, hey, this is something I should actually, like,
Pay attention to
and spend a little time on. And so it's actually like following a thought all the way through, not just dismissing it before you've even given it a chance.
Okay. But when you say following a thought all the way through, you mean like actually reflecting on it?
Yeah, actually taking the time to think about what that thought could mean in your life. If it fits in your life, if it would serve you, if it's aligned for, what you want in life, the direction you want to take your life, but just actually taking the time for it to actually form. And really just like creating that space to reflect on it.
Interesting. Any other nuggets on that?
Oh, definitely. The queen of the nugs.
Yeah.
I think it's also like curiosity. I know this has come up in conversations of ours in the past, but like being curious, not judgmental. I think it's so easy, especially depending on what the thought is that's coming up for you. Like, I don't know why, but it's just so easy to default to that, like, judgmental place, whether you're doing that outwardly towards somebody else or a situation, or you're doing it inward toward yourself. But, like, just be open enough to just be curious. I think that we learn the most and we gain the most insight when we're just curious.
I think that goes back to what I said about people having the blinders on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why some are not curious to dive down those paths to reflect on these thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's not within the
They're peripheral.
exactly it's outside of the blinders, so
Yeah.
they just don't want to just head down and keep going on what they can see. And I mean, I think that's, again, that also ties back into letting yourself ask these uncomfortable questions. Is, what happens if I think on these thoughts and reflect on these thoughts and let them go where they're going to go? Again,
Exactly.
there's that uncomfortable feeling of the unknown.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And, when you were talking about the blinders, what I was actually envisioning was a box.
Okay.
So if you think about a box, you put yourself into that box. You can't see beyond the walls around you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see over them, through them, under them. And I think when we put ourselves in that box, like, we squash creativity, we squash curiosity.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Right?
Yeah, so basically tear that box down and...
Yeah, I mean, yes.
Yes.
I believe in, like, living outside the box. But I think it's also important to recognize that awareness and action are not the same thing. I know that I touched on this kind of earlier with saying that, like, just because you have that awareness doesn't mean you actually have to take action on it. So they are very different things, but I think that the only way action does not happen without having that awareness first.
Okay.
Like, I think it's kind of like a chain reaction.
So awareness happens first,
Mm-hmm.
and then you take action on that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, if you want to change X, Y, or Z in your life, you become aware of that there are better options or alternative options, maybe not better. And
Options that would serve you.
yes.
Versus not.
Right. And because of becoming aware of that, that's when you take those actions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I mean, think about it with your example earlier of just, your feet hit the ground and you're basically working
Mm-hmm.
versus taking time to pour into yourself.
Yeah.
My voice in your ear alone was not enough to get you to take action. It was you actually having the awareness for yourself, most likely asking the question of, I feel like there's got to be a better way to start my day that actually serves me. What could that look like?
Mm-hmm.
I may have planted the thought, again, planted the seed,
Yeah.
but it didn't matter in that instance, like, how much I watered that for you. Like, that was an inside job
Yeah.
that only you could do.
It certainly was.
Mm-hmm. So I think an important question to ask yourself, if you do find yourself in that season of maybe starting to have awareness around things, but gravitating toward that default of avoiding
Mm-hmm.
what that could actually mean for you, would be to ask yourself, what would happen if I stopped interrupting my own thoughts? Because I think the second you ask yourself that question honestly, the floodgates open. Because you realize the possibility.
Mm-hmm. That's a really, really good question to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
That's like a pull out your journal and write it down right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. And then come back to it. Man. So if there's one thing we'd encourage you to do after listening to this episode, it's to pay attention to the thought that keeps showing up. The one that you keep pushing aside. The one you immediately distract yourself from. The one that shows up when things get quiet. Not because you need to solve it today, not because you need to change anything immediately, just because it might be trying to tell you something.
The next time you notice yourself thinking, I don't know if I want this long term, I don't think this pace is sustainable, I feel like something is off, there has to be more than this. Don't immediately talk yourself out of it. Don't immediately explain the thought away. Just stay with it a little longer. Sit with it and ask yourself, why does this thought keep coming back? Because sometimes the biggest shift isn't finding a new answer. It's finally being willing to listen to a question you've been avoiding.
I like that.
What keeps sticking with me from this conversation is that most people don't avoid these questions because they don't care. If anything, it's usually the opposite. The questions we avoid tend to be the ones that matter the most. Questions about how we're spending our time, the future we're building, and whether the life we're living still feels aligned with who we are.
And that's why these questions don't just disappear. They tend to keep showing up in small moments. A thought while you're driving, a feeling you can't quite explain, a moment where you catch yourself wondering, can I really see myself doing this forever?
And the goal isn't to have all the answers right away. You don't have to make a big decision. You don't have to change your life tomorrow. But there is value in being honest enough to acknowledge what's already there. Because a lot of the time, the conversation we're avoiding isn't actually with anyone else. It's with ourselves. And until we're willing to have that conversation, it's really hard to know what comes next. If this episode resonated with you, a couple quick things you can do that really help us out. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. If you haven't yet, we'd really appreciate you leaving a review. It helps more people who are feeling this way actually find these conversations.
And if someone came to mind while you were listening, send this episode to them. These are the kinds of conversations most people aren't having out loud. If this conversation resonated with you, we'd love to have you join us over on Substack. That's where we're sharing more of our thoughts on work, time, alignment, and building a life that feels intentional, not just successful on paper. We'll drop the link in the show notes.
Thank you for being here. We're Eric and Laura, and this is The Road Less Traveled with the Traveling Burns, where we have honest conversations about challenging the default path and what it really means to live differently. We'll see you in the next episode.